My Line. Brought to you by Helene Curtis, makers of Stopette deodorants, flowing cream, spray, and stick, Suave hair dressing, and End and Dandruff Treatment shampoo. Now let's all play What's My Line?
And now let's meet our award-winning What's My Line panel. First, the delightful star of stage and television, Miss Arlene Francis.
There is a French expression, tel père, tel fils, like father, like son. And now you're going to see the very gifted son of a very gifted father, a little horse from working outdoors in a movie for 5 days, but loud enough so you can hear him, Mr. Keenan Wynn.
And on my left, I would like to introduce a friend of many years' standing, that very charming Miss Dorothy Kilgallen.
It's a great pleasure to welcome back as our guest panelist someone who is related to Arlene by marriage and related to me by a long friendship, Martin Gabel.
And on my left, one of television's most eminent journalists and newscasters, Mr. John Daly.
First of all, I want to congratulate the panel on getting here tonight, and then tell those who've been good enough to come and join us in the theater to be our audience that we're having medals cast for you. And now that all of the felicitations have been had, I will tell the panel we've got some interesting occupations with which we hope to give you a really rough time tonight. And we'll also have a famous mystery guest before the panel. A little bit later in the show, we'll meet our first challenger in just 1 minute. Now, panel, I have a wonderful surprise for you. For our first contestant, you don't have to put your masks on. Will our first contestant come in and sign in, please? Robert Mirabella, is that right? Mr. Mirabella, where are you from?
Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn, New York. Now, actually, this is a day when coming from Brooklyn, New York warrants all the applause in the world. Did you have to walk over, or did you get some dogs and a sled and come over that way?
No, the BMT was fine.
The BMT was fine. Well, Mr. Mirabella, meet the panel. Mr. Mirabella, will you come over here and sit down, please? You know how we keep score, Mr. Mirabella?
Yes, I do.
All right, then let's let the folks at home and these brave and hardy souls who've come to join us in the theater know exactly what your line is. No electioneering in the house, please. Panel, we give you some help. Mr. Mirabella is salaried, and let's begin the general questioning with Arlene Francis.
Do you work for a profit-making organization, Mr. Mirabella?
No.
That's 1 down and 9 to go. Mr. Wynn.
Do you work for a government, Mr. Mirabella? City government or a state?
Yes.
Do you work, let's nail it down, do you work for a city government?
No.
That's 2 down and 8 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Well, do you work for the feds?
Yes.
Do you have anything to do with anything that any citizen might regard as an unpleasant duty or obligation?
At times.
I can spot him a mile away.
It is unpleasant?
Yes, some might regard it as such.
At times.
At times. In the spring, specifically?
No.
That makes it 3 down and 7 to go, Mr. Gabel.
Yeah.
Are you appointed to your present job, Mr. Mirabella? I mean, you're not elected by the citizens of Brooklyn.
No.
It's not an elective office.
Yes,
I only have a negative response to that question, though.
Well, no, you get an affirmative because we take it you use the word appointive to mean non-elective.
Yes.
You did.
In a moment like this, I say to myself, what would Bennett Cerf do?
Bennett Cerf is probably down there.
He's sitting by the pool at the Fontainebleau.
Laughing at us.
Yes. Do you go to the people with whom you deal, or do they come to you?
That can't be answered yes or no. Would you like to
But do they sometimes come to you, and on the other hand, do you sometimes go to them?
You have to make one question.
Well, I've got to get a yes to that, John.
Yes, you get, I think on that basis, you've got to get a yes. You'll get the information, though.
Is there any aspect of... May I carry on?
No, actually, Mr. Mirabella makes the point you asked two questions. I must rule here that you asked one question which could hardly be answered otherwise than affirmatively. But it gave him no information, Mr. Mirabella.
You may trust Mr. Daly, Mr. Mirabella. He's very ungenerous to the panelist rule. Do you want something, as a rule, from the people with whom you deal?
No.
4 down and 6 to go, Miss Francis.
Mirabella is such a pretty name. Does that mean beautiful reflection? I don't want to get a yes or no on that. I'm
The first word
curious.
is right.
What?
The first word is right. It's sea, usually. Ocean.
Ocean? And Bello is beautiful ocean? And you're so watery? Huh? Do you have anything to do with the elements?
Yes.
Oh.
I have to live with this every day.
Do you have to do with the sea or the air or the sky in some way?
Yes.
Do you have to determine anything about these different elements?
Yes.
Marvelous, Arlene. You've got it.
Marvelous.
Should we have
She's got it.
Well, you can't tell.
Does it have anything to do with the weather?
Yes.
Do you tell the government whether the money is going to snow under? Do you have to do with whether it's going to rain or snow or storm? Or do you give them advice about something on that order?
Yes.
What would that be
He's a
called?
weather
Weatherman.
forecaster.
You're a weather forecaster. That's right.
Mr. Mirabella, the first thing we do is do this, because Mr. Mirabella has been working since 8 o'clock this morning tracking this storm which has hit the whole eastern part of the United States and which has dumped variously 15 to 8 inches of snow between, what, I guess Virginia and
I persuade you
all the
to
way up
clean
to
my
New England,
stoop.
that's right.
What'd say, Arlene?
Just wondered if I could persuade him to clean my stoop.
Dorothy?
Never mind tracking it. Get rid of it.
Oh, he's the best tracker in the world, I must say, and this is a time about which I think the Weather Department can be proud. You said this was coming and said it was going to be pretty rough, as I remember, didn't you?
Yes, I think by and large we covered it rather well.
And now we're covered.
Mr.
Yes, thank you
Mirabella.
very much. Thank you very
John,
much.
may I ask Mr. Mirabella a question?
Yeah.
Is it true that the atomic explosions have affected the weather? Everybody seems to say that.
There's not enough information to lead to any definite conclusions.
I see. Thank you.
Will the weather affect the atomic explosion?
That'll be all, Miss Kilgallen. Miss Francis. Thanks very much, Mr. Mirabella. We shall have All right, panel, a very good beginning. Let's see, you can do as well with the second challenger. Will you come in and sign in, please? Mildred Berry, is that right? Miss or Mrs. Berry? Mrs. Berry, and where are you from, Mrs. Berry?
I'm from St. Augustine, Florida.
Pardon me just a minute. It's been storming up here lately. From St. Augustine in Florida. That's fine. Mrs. Berry, would you say hello to the panel?
How do you do?
Berry, will you come and sit over here with me now, please? I'm sorry. Sorry about these boots, but there's 15 inches of snow out where I live, you know. All right, Mrs. Berry, do you know how we keep score?
Yes, I do.
Fine, then let's let everybody in the theater, except the panel and our folks at home, know exactly what your line is. All right. And now, Panel, Mrs. Berry is salaried, and let's begin the general questioning with Dorothy Kilgallen.
Mrs. Berry, I don't know very much about St. Augustine, but Mr. Wynn apparently does. Do you have anything to do with animals?
Well, yes, I do.
You hesitated.
Uh-huh.
You really do?
Yes, Mrs.
Yes,
Berry
I do.
does.
They're an important part of your work.
Yes, they are.
Are they animals that move along on the ground rather than in the ocean?
Yes.
Are they reptiles of any kind?
No.
1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Gabel.
You're on the right track.
Florida is developing a horse breeding industry. Have you anything to do with horses?
Yes, I do have.
Have you anything to do with horses that engage in racing, for example?
No.
That's 2 down and 8 to go, Miss Francis.
Do you have anything to do with the health of horses?
No.
With the health of horses?
Health, H-E-A-L-T-H.
The health of horses. That makes it 3 down and 7 to go, Mr. Wynn.
Do you have anything to do with raising horses that are used to show?
No.
That makes it 4 down and 6 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Well, if they don't race,
It's not established that she raises them.
No.
There's been no call for a conference, please, Miss Kilgallen.
there won't be for a moment, but only a moment. If these are horses that you deal with, and they are not racing horses, are they horses that are domesticated? They're not wild horses, are they?
They're domesticated.
Domesticated. Are they born in the United States?
Yes.
The horses?
Yes.
Yes.
At least they're naturalized.
Are we dealing with anything else at the moment?
No.
Do you deal with various ages and colors of horses?
No.
Oh.
Well, now, wait a minute here. We have to have a small conference.
What? No various ages and colors.
Actually, Miss Dorothy, I think to be fair, we would have to agree that the horses with whom Mrs. Berry deals are not all of exactly the same age. They could be variously aged, I would suppose. And they might actually have different hues.
I'm only trying to narrow down a subject about which I don't know very much, except they all have 4 legs.
Do you want to ask that question if all these horses have 4 legs?
Yeah, I think I'll assume that, John, if I may. Do these horses, are they trained for anything special eventually?
Yes.
Or do they become circus horses by any chance?
No.
No. That makes it 5 down and 5 to go, and the affirmative answer on training should not be taken too literally.
Well, even to take the bit within their teeth, a certain amount of training is...
Yes, and that's what I meant. The training is
Within that
to
narrow.
be considered routine training.
Are these horses intended to be driven by human beings in a carriage or a wagon or a hackney or something of that kind?
Yes.
They are. Now, we haven't determined what you... Do you have anything to do with the health of these horses?
That has been
I
asked
asked,
so
not
that
a no.
you can have another question.
Do you raise these horses?
No.
That makes it 6 down and 4 to go, Miss Francis.
Well, now, Martin just said that these horses are trained to lead a carriage of some kind. Is that correct? And you answered yes to that.
They're not trained, but they do ultimately, perhaps, is about as close as I got.
Eventually, they
I'm expecting you to vindicate the honor of the family, Arlene.
I'm going to give you 1 more minute, panel, and I must rush.
Are we warm?
Well, I'll say you got to the horses right early, but you ain't done well saying. And I will say this to you. This is a real tough one, so you don't need to feel
Well, are
unhappy.
these horses other than horses? Like, are they ponies or anything like that?
No, 7 down and 3 to go, Mr. Wynn. You want to try a question?
We have these horses in harness. Am I correct?
You've got them in harness.
Are they used? We have
Fire
established the
horses.
fact that they are not used for show, such as a hackney pony.
That's
Such-
right.
So, are they used for stagecoaches and western shorts?
No. 8 down and 2 to go. Actually, I'm going to flip them. Dorothy, you want to try one? Have you got any
Just
glimmer?
fire horses was the only thing I could
No.
think of. No.
Actually, and you see, Mrs. Berry has a rather special association with horses. She makes hats for them. And I didn't believe it either, so we brought you one.
Where do they wear them, John?
Let me explain. At St. Augustine, they have these carriages and horses. I believe it's the Coley family, is it?
The Cooley family.
Cooley family. And they have about 35 of them, and the people ride around them. And Mrs. Berry got the idea of making hats for them, and this is part of the panoply and pomp of St. Augustine. This is one of the horses' acts.
It's very becoming.
Isn't that something?
Mr. Daly, these horses have been on the streets of St. Augustine for 75 years, 365 days a year. But if it snows any further in Florida, we're going to have some sleighs.
And needless to say, these horses are the oldest horses you've ever heard about. They've been on the streets for 75 years. There's where the horses' ears go, by the way. Do you want to take this with you and show it to the panel? Thank you very much. It's very nice to have you with us. We meet tonight's mystery guest in just to come to the special feature of our program, the appearance of our mystery celebrity, for which I ask my friends on the panel to blindfold themselves. Blindfolds all in place, panel?
Yes, John.
Good. Will you come in, mystery challenger, and sign in, please? All right, panel. As you know, in the case of our mystery challenger, we go to a different form of questioning. You will ask one question at a time in turn, moving clockwise. And we begin with Martin Gabel.
John, did that startling sound we just heard have anything to do with the work of our mystery guest?
No.
No. 1 down, 9 to go, Miss Francis.
Are you somebody in the entertainment industry?
That's yes. Mr. Wynn?
Yeah, I assume that was yes. Are you someone who is noted for some particular branch of the industry, or do you appear in all fields, such as movies, TV?
Can't be answered yes or no.
I beg your pardon. Do you appear in more than one branch?
Miss Kilgallen?
Do you sing? Yes.
Do you sing?
Do you sing? What was that?
That's yes. Mr. Gabel?
Believe me, there's no offense in this question, but are you man or woman? Are you man?
Are you mad? Yeah. Miss Francis?
It's a man?
Yes, Miss Francis.
Are you a comedian? You are tonight, anyway.
Mr. Wynn?
You are a singing comedian.
No, he's a comedian who sings, perhaps.
Well, in any event, that reminds me of a story we can't go into at the moment. Would you say that television is your best-known medium?
Yes, I think yes and no is the proper answer there. Actually, our guest has an outstanding reputation in many fields. Miss Kilgallen?
Oh, really? Are you very big on jukeboxes?
That's no. That's 2 down and 8 to go, Mr. Gabel.
This is what used to be known as a shot in the dark. Are you related to anyone on this panel?
That makes it
Just
3
wanted to
down
clear that
and
up.
7 to go, Miss Francis.
Now, you're a comedian and you sing, and television isn't your only means of exposure.
Expression, Arlene.
Expression. No offense. Are you a man that has performed widely in clubs?
Yes. Mr. Wynn?
No?
Yes.
Yes.
That's a yes. Mm-hmm.
Only because of your reaction before, whether you were very large on jukeboxes and the audience gave such a reaction. Are you very large physically? Are you a very large man?
You got a clue who this is? I think actually, Keenan, we need...
Huh?
We need some help. What do you mean by large physically? You mean over...
A big man. A very large man.
Beg your pardon?
A fat man. A big man.
No, not a fat man. No. Oh, no. That's 4 down and 6 to go. Let's Kilgallen.
Well, since it was such a hoot when I said jukeboxes, are you by any chance what we refer to as a legitimate singer? No?
No, I don't think we could possibly say that. That's 5
Well,
down
try
and 5...
rock and roll.
5 down,
Well,
5 to go, Mr. Gabel.
We haven't established whether you are a comedian who sings or a singer who is clearly very funny. So let me take a chance and say, are you a singer rather than a comedian?
No. That's 6 down and 4 to go, Miss
He's a
Francis.
comedian primarily.
Right.
Have you had your own show on television?
Mr. Wynn.
Are you in a play on Broadway at the present time?
No. You mean specifically on Broadway?
No, well, not specific. In New York City.
You mean in New York City, but
Yes.
it's off Broadway. It could be off Broadway.
It could be.
No. That's 7 down. 7 down, 3 to go, Mr. Kilgallen.
Have you been in El Morocco within the last week?
Oh, who hasn't?
Gabel.
I pass to Arlene.
Miss Francis.
Are you a comedian who is going to play one of his very rare appearances in a serious part in television very soon?
Yes. Mr. Wynn.
Yes? Could your name be Milton Berle?
I couldn't believe that Milton would stay in that long without breaking out, you see. The point is, he has really gone legitimate this week.
Actually gone quite legitimate.
That clattering noise you heard, Martin, was Milton came in with earmuffs, cap, and snow shovel, and blam.
I must admit, Milton doesn't need props when he works.
Well, thank you very much. I needed him a few years ago, though.
Makeup. No, but let's get serious for a moment. Actually, Arlene asked the question that I think probably triggered everything, because Milton Berle is going to get serious. You're going to make, in a very substantial sense, it's a debut as a serious
On
dramatic
Craft
actor.
Theater, isn't it?
That's right.
How would you happen to be associated with the cheese, Milton?
Because I'm a ham. You want me to say that, Joe? And a burl ham. A burl ham. We'll do that.
Seriously, Mr. Berle is going to play a serious role as a dramatic actor on Wednesday night in the Craft Theater.
That's right, 9 o'clock.
At
9
9
to
o'clock,
10.
and it'll be something that I think we'll all want to see, because you've certainly swept the boards in every other area, and we all expect you're going to do the same thing here.
Well, John and ladies and gentlemen of the panel, I hope it will be getting very legitimate now. You notice this? I'm trying to stay into the character. I hope it will be as good as we wish it to be. Richard Kiley is in it, a very good friend of all yours, and Nancy Marchand and little Tim Hovey. And it's sort of a dramatic one-hour debut for me, and I only hope it comes off. And then I'm going down to Florida after that. You want to come down?
Skiing?
What?
Skiing? No, that's not nice. Actually, it ought to be nice
Does
and
he
warm.
want me to wind up being a straight man, Fancy?
It'll be nice and warm when you get down to Florida, and we feel particularly warm that on
I'll
a
be at the
wretched...
Latin Quarter down there.
The Latin Quarter.
Will you
Yes,
be
sir.
there?
I'd like to be, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to work. But we feel very warm about you coming here on such a wretched night. Thank you, sir.
It's a great pleasure. Thank you very much.
And you're
mad at you, Keenan, for guessing.
Your muffler, Milton.
Bye.
And we'll be back after this word from our sponsor. In spite of the elements tonight, we've had a lot of fun. Keenan, Wynn, it's been great having you on the panel with us. He's had some fears about whether his voice would last, because he's been out on the Palisades across the Hudson River working every day this week at the top of his lungs nearly. He had to shout, and he was afraid his voice would run out, but it didn't do it. And it's been good having you with us. With that happy thought, until next week, this is John Daly saying good night, Arlene Francis.
Good night, and good night, Bennett and Phyllis. Enjoy your warm vacation in Florida. And it was lovely to have you with us, Keenan.
Thank you, Arlene.
Good night.
Good night, Dorothy.
Good night, Keenan. Give my love to Dad, will you?
I will.
Good night, Martin.
Give my love to your husband.
Thank you.
Dorothy.
I will.
Good night, John.
Good night, Martin. Good night, Bennett and Phyllis. And good night, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for being with us on What's My Line?
If you'd like to be a contestant, send a picture we can keep and your occupation to What's My Line? CBS Television, 485 Madison Avenue, New York, 22, New York. Transportation for contestants on What's My Line is arranged by American Airlines. What's My Line is a Mark Goodson, Bill Todman production in association with the CBS Television Network. This is Hal Sims speaking.